What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the interviews that's been going on with Abandon. Now, not going into them, right? We've actually broken down each of the past two interviews that Hassan has did. The first one with NME, which was just and people said it's like a British music site, so I don't know why gaming is like their priority or how they even got in contact with Hassan. But then he also did an interview on IGN, and we broke that video down. Now, I'm not, again, I don't want to retread too much stuff. I want to keep these things fresh and keep them new. But one thing I've been thinking of kind of in the background is, and I've probably said it here and there, and you guys may or may not know this, I don't like gaming journalists very much at all. I think that they are a group of the exact same person, just kind of spread out into many different people. They all think the same. They're not very good at their jobs. They're liars half the time. You can keep going down the line. There's many examples, and I've covered a lot of the examples on the channel. Now, maybe not everybody's going to agree with that, and that's totally fine. But in terms of this aspect of the interviews with Hassan, the interviews with Blue Box, so on, one thing I've kind of noticed that is, and maybe you guys have too, is that they're not very good. We're getting these answers that are very defensive from Hassan. We're getting these answers that don't exactly make sense, or they contradict stuff that he said in the past. And Colin Moriarty, who actually was kind of kicked out of the gaming industry world because he has just a different, set of opinions, which does get you kicked out nowadays. He tweeted a few days ago, and I loved, the idea of it because it's something I've thought kind of in my head, and I was contemplating making a video, and I was like, okay, Colin, I'm going to do it now. And he basically tweeted out, and I retweet it, in that, like, why do all the interviews with Hassan suck? Like, why are they not good? Why does he get asked questions that don't really, they're not really focused. They're not specific. Now, the answer to that could be many things, right? And I'm, it really is just kind of taking my word because I really never said it out loud that I've thought the same thing. But it is something I've noticed as well, where really, in my mind, to explain it to you guys, there can only be a couple different options, right? Number one, I guess you could say one option is that they're all in on it. You know what I mean? Like the interviewers know what's going on deep down, no matter what it is, they know what's going on, okay? The second thing is they maybe think they are actually doing like an actual interview, and they just don't know that they suck at their jobs. Now, that's a little bit more of a harsh or critical one, but to be flat out honest with you, I mean, I would say the same thing for anybody or any situation. Side story, I won't make it too long. I interviewed a couple weeks back the voice of Sly Cooper, okay? Now, I adore Sly Cooper to death. One of my favorite video games of all time. I'm honored that I was able to do that and talk to, I mean, he's literally my childhood, you know what I mean? But I said to people, going into that interview and in the interview, I'm not going to just kind of pretend that there's no talks of Sly 5. I'm not going to, like, let the interview go and just never mention, like, hey, do you know about a new game? Or, like, ask him off air and then let you guys know. Like, I'm not going to, like, let those things pass because, like, I feel like that's what you need to do in an interview. People are kind of expecting that of you. So, what does that have to do with Abandon? Well, it's kind of the same thing. Like, if I were to ever get to talk to Hassan, whether he's a real person or not, I want to make it worth something. You know what I mean? Like, I would imagine I would actually ask questions, and, like, hard questions. Not even hard, just, like, direct questions to get answers to. And if they say something that doesn't make sense or contradicts, you could call them out on it. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I've said, in the past, it all kind of connects into one idea here, where it's like they're either just bad at their job, these journalists, right? They don't actually care. They're just kind of doing it. They're getting their paycheck and going home, right? They hate gamers. They hate games, all that stuff. Or really, they're too afraid to kind of poke the bear a little bit because, again, they all have to think exactly the same. They all have to be friends. They can't, you can't possibly have a difference of opinion, of each other. You can't possibly call somebody out on something. And I guess, again, like, it gets a little bit more harsh like that. And in that way, I guess it goes into kind of like the politics of the gaming industry, which I'm sure not everybody cares about. But, to be flat out honest with you, I've always gotten that sense, and I've talked about it many times in videos. But I think for, like, this interview purpose, it really is, like, it's glaring. You know what I mean? Like, you read these interviews, even, again, the ones we've gone over. Now, he's done ones, there was, like, the wave of interviews before the app launched, right? Before we got the teaser trailer, before that whole, terrible like week that they had. There were interviews before that too, and even those interviews, they're not very good. One of the funny things I pointed about that NME, right? And it's hard to say NM back to back, but they literally were very cocky, the writer in the article, talking about how like Hassan broke down the plot details and they like know the story front to back, they know the villain, but they're gonna like but Hassan said to keep it to themselves, so they're gonna keep it to themselves. It's like, why do you need to say something like that? Like, that just sounds very weird, very sketchy, and it's like, just be transparent. Now, obviously, if you're interviewing a developer and they tell you the whole story of the game, well, actually, what developer even does that in the first place, by the way? That's a lot of trust they're putting on that person to not leak it on like a side account, on like a burner account, which is something I just thought of right now. But say they do trust them enough to kind of give them all the information, I guess there is that situation where they maybe wouldn't say, but to me, it doesn't make much sense. And so I think Colin is 100% right, and that's a sense I got as well. And you go to the IGN one, right? When you go to the past and you're talking about all these past games that have failed and all of these excuses, like, you can't call them on any of this. Or even remember, one of the points I mentioned in that IGN interview was, well, how, in his own words, there were all of these failures and all of these just things that never actually happened, right? Games that came out, but they had to pull them, so they really made next to no money. They had to pay back investor funds, but it's like, where did they get the money from if they admitted nobody cared about them and nobody bought their games? So how did they repay their debts? Does that even make sense to people? So you have that. How do you go from a 2-person team to a 10-person team to multiple outsourcing studios helping you to working on a PS5 only game on Unreal Engine, working with Sony? Again, depending on how much communication there is between Sony and them, we don't really know. But like, how does that happen? Is it that hard to ask those kind of questions? It's not even a hard question. It's just, hey, you started out very small. You said that yourself. You didn't do anything. Maybe that's a little harsh, but that's also your words. Like, nothing actually came out that made you money. So how exactly did you get to this point? How exactly did you get to work with Sony? Why hasn't anybody asked him that? Like, I don't actually understand. And now again, I don't talk a lot about MBG because I don't watch any of his stuff, like, whatsoever. He's another YouTuber. I wish him the best, but like, people have told me, ever since he interviewed Hassan, right? Because and I don't know if he did, right? He says he did, but people have told me he's been acting very weird in terms of some of his live streams and the stuff he's kind of said about this. I mean, even him, it's like, well, what did he actually? I mean, he was like the leading conspiracy theorist for this entire thing. What question did he say? Now, again, like, I don't know, so I'm not gonna, like, I'm not accusing or anything because I don't want people attacking me. But I want you guys to honestly let me know. Like, has he said the questions he's asked Hassan? Did he say the answers Hassan gave? I haven't seen them, but maybe he did say that. Like, but is it that hard to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. In my opinion, it would be very different for me. Now, I'm not saying, like, I'm better than these people, but I just don't understand. I think I just have a better mindset than some of how these people have handled these interviews. I really don't think that's kind of unfair to say. I think I would have done, not to be cocky, but I think I would have done a better job at interviewing these people, or, Hassan, than IGN or like NME. Because it doesn't really seem like they're asking, like Colin said, like pinpoint questions. I'm not saying try to do gotcha moments to them. You know what I mean? Those are probably annoying. You probably don't get interviews like that. But I mean, I hate Kotaku quite a bit, and they've only gotten worse over the last 5 to 10 years. But one of the things that did make them special early on, like when they were still good, is although it definitely actually seemed like gaming developers didn't like them, it was because they actually broke stories. Like, they talked to people behind the scenes and they figured stuff out, or they would leak games, and like, however you see that morality, if you see it as that's like pathetic to do or like scummy or whatever, that's up to you. But I mean, the point is, in the gaming industry, doing those things, and I would actually call them like actual journalism, right? Figuring stuff out, asking tough questions, doing things others don't do. That's journalism. It actually did result in people not necessarily liking them. So I get that, but that's kind of the point. And I think everybody's kind of playing too soft, and they've always played too soft over the and there's always been conspiracies with like review codes. These kind of publications give higher scores so that they maintain friendly relationships. I don't think it's entirely true, but I do 100% think there is like an element there that does like mentally, they get the review code mentally somewhere in there, even if they don't want to. They do think about that, and they do have to, kind of maintain those friendships with those developers and publishers. I do think there is, a level of credibility there. So I think it's a problem with the game. Like, this isn't even necessarily a problem with Hassan. This is more of a problem with the gaming industry, that these people have had the privilege, honor, I mean, that's probably not actually, but, whatever you want to say, they've had the ability to interview this guy who's behind the biggest mystery in games we've had in years. In years. Nothing has ever come, there has been other stuff, but, nothing has really come close, over the last several years, right? You have the ability to talk to this guy and ask him questions, something that very few people can do, and these are your questions, and then he says stuff and you don't, like, call him on it. Is that a lack of research? Is that you being bad, which is, I guess, being bad at your job? Are you too afraid to hurt his feelings because he seems like a sensitive guy? You too afraid to kind of poke the bear? Or, like I said earlier on, the other option is they're all in on it. So, of course, they're not going to ask tough questions because they're part of the game. Now, is it necessarily, if that's true, is it great that the gaming journalists, and again, they're like a hive mind. They're all the exact same people, right? So is it a good thing that these gaming journalists that are all the exact same, they're in on the joke and they're not, like, trying to do investigation, which is what they should be doing, or, like, cluing us in? I don't really think that's fair, or that's nice, or that's them doing their jobs. That's actually them actually doing the opposite of their jobs, right? So it's just kind of funny. So it's something that I've thought about, and like I said, I saw Colin, kind of call them out for it, and I'm happy that he did that. That's some of the stuff, by the way, that got him kicked out of the gaming industry in general, so maybe I should watch myself, but who cares? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, like I keep saying, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my second channel. We're actually closing in on 4,000 subscribers on my second channel, so if you guys haven't subbed there, would definitely appreciate it. We have Patreon and YouTube memberships if you guys want to check those out. Again, all the links for all of the things in the description below, okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.